Hello, it is September, and it's my birth month, which I wanted to celebrate by doing something special. So I decided to rank my 100 favorite fictional characters. So let's begin. With number 100, Kaizaki Arata from Real Life. I haven't read it in a while, admittedly, but I just remember him having great vibes and just being an overall good time to read and having an ending that I was happy with. He's only this slow because I don't have the most immediate knowledge of how much I liked him since I haven't read it since it finished. But I remember having an all the while pretty positive experience. Any minor deterrents were just little gripes. From 99, we have Ganta from Insomniacs After School, which is admittedly 99% of the story I like him, but since it was recently ended, I'm assuming because it got cancelled, it felt a bit too abrupt to be the end of the story. But I wasn't huge on the speeding up of just any development where it didn't really feel like he got resolved. But on the whole, I still liked him. I enjoyed seeing him and his vibes and his arc. Number 98, we have Sasura from Basara, which admittedly I haven't finished reading. I'm about halfway through, but I just love Sasura's energy. She's just intense, but also is struggling with the moral conflict of becoming a murderer while also being a woman. And she's just very cool, and I respect the hell out of her. And I cannot wait until we get to the point where her and the Red King face off, because I know that will be peak fiction and will probably make her jump several places on this list, but that will remain to be seen. Number 97, we have Kaguya from Kaguya-sama. I just love her vibe. She's real funny when she wants to be, but I also just really liked her arc in the movie. I think it was a good dissection of her character and really getting into the core of why it works and what was wrong. And I can't wait for the rest of it because it was very good. Number 96, we have Ruri from Marie Dragon, which is admittedly just vibes. We don't have anything to her character since there's only been 6 chapters released. But on her design alone and also the little bit we have, I just love her. She's great. Her vibe's immaculate. For number 95, we have Ishiki Roha, who is just a joy to be on screen. She's not the deepest character in the show, but anytime she's on the screen, I'm having a blast, and I think her dynamic with Hachiman is just so fun. For number 94, we have another vibes pick, which is Irvine from Berserk. He is one of the villains, but I think his design is incredible. It's even his normal versus his transformed one. I'm just wow, this guy looks sick. And that's enough. I just enjoy looking at him and I go, that's what I would have loved to see when I was 16 drawing. That would have made me a Twitter artist, but unfortunately we didn't live in that world right now. Number 93, we have Garp from One Piece, who I just like his vibe. He's just fun. He's just living life, but also being a conflicted adult when his kid basically is not his antithesis, but is going against what he is currently in. I really love him in Marineford, and after recent developments where we see what could have happened had he actually, joined the fight at that point, made me love him a lot more. For number 92, we have Colt from Hunter x Hunter. He's not in there a lot, but I think he's just the Chimera Ant that I remember the most, and I just had an overall positive experience with. Where I'm cool, I like your design, you have a cool character arc, and also are not the worst ant to come out of all of them. For number 91, we have another Hunter x Hunter character, Hisoka, who is a much better written character, but is just the one I like less. I think he's interesting in every arc he's in, but he's just not my favorite to think about or talk about, but I still think he is like one of the cooler ones. His vibes are just bad, which is the point, but not my style. Number 90, we have Sam Porter Bridges from Death Stranding, which is more just the game as a whole, where I just really like playing as him, and I think how he plays and the whole package delivery system is very cool. His arc isn't anything crazy, but it is nice to see him like kind of become a father to the little BB guy. And I just like the guy, even if it is just Norman Reedus playing a character. He's still fun to play as, and I think adds some humanity and heart to a very confusing story. For number 89, we have Knuckle from Hunter x Hunter, who I just love that he has his heart on his sleeve. Like, he's the big macho fighter guy, and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be rough. But then, like, every time we see him fight, he ends up being the most like empathetic person on the field, and you're like, yeah, this is what we love to see. He'll still fight, and I don't pretend to understand how his power works beyond the like base understanding, but I think it's a cool one, and I think really highlights how deep and confusing Nen can be, but in like a good way, because I still think his ability ultimately is like very cool. Number 88, we have Kai Shimada from Sangatsu no Lion, who, he's just an old man. He's just living life, being tired, old, and frail, but I think he has a good dynamic of the like older generation for that story, as in contrast to Kiriyama, who's much younger and kind of the blossoming talent, while Shimada is the like old mentor who is passing on, but also still fighting his own battle, which is very cool, and I love him a lot. Number 87, we have Takumi from Fire Emblem Fates, the one character from that I genuinely like. He just has the most interesting design, character arc, and is used probably the best among all of the Fates characters. Partially because of the turn and where he gets possessed and all that fun stuff. Makes him more memorable than like 90% of that cast, because he actually something happened to him. Aside from like Elise, but that doesn't make her a better character in the end. That just makes her dead. Well, I guess Takumi also does die, but you know, he's cool. He goes out with a fun level that I enjoyed. Number 86, we have Lucina from Fire Emblem Awakening. My favorite Smash character to play as, which definitely influences this, but I think she just is a really interesting character in the context of Awakening, where she is from the future and is coming back to try and save everything, but also the dynamic where she's like, I am Marth. And you're like, whoa, Marth? Wow. But then when she's revealed, she just is a fun character to play as, and the whole time future present kid thing is a little weird, but it's more just like a joke to me now when I think about it, but it doesn't hamper my enjoyment of the character. Number 85, we have Saber Alter from the Fate series, which I'm counting as like Stay Night, FGO. Wherever Saber Alter has appeared, I like them. I think they just have a peak design. They're not like the deepest character, but I think every incarnation of them, aside from like the Christmas one, I'm like, this is the rules and I want them again. Like, I think their costume in Shinjuku and FGO is really good. Even just their base costume is really cool, and I love the Maid Alter. I think her whole gimmick is very, very rad and very cool, and I like it a lot. She's also one of the few people I have a figure of, which gives her some bonus points, even if it's not a ton. Number 84, we have Tony Stark from Iron Man, one of the very few live-action characters in this list, which is purely just because he was like the first MCU guy I watched, and I really liked his arc and character, and every time he was in a movie, I'm like, yes, you are the guy I like. And I think he had a fitting conclusion to his arc. And I also think he is the best third movie, because I think Iron Man 3 is underrated, and I will die by that opinion. Which is mainly because it's nice to see, like, he actually does have PTSD. Like, this is a guy who is struggling, and his whole arc in the movie is that he is struggling, which I think is really cool, and most of them didn't deal with as well, I think. Number 83, we have Tahu from the Bionicle series, our first and only toy, which is a lot of nostalgia because he was like the toy I got as a kid, and I like loved playing with him. But I think he holds a special place in my heart because of his design, his incarnations, just playing with him as a kid. Like, he was always the one I got, and I don't remember much about the story. I just remember he was the guy that was in it the most because they kept bringing him back. I don't know about the like reboot, but in the original one, I'm like, yes, I love this guy. He is very cool. Number 82, we have Bon Clay from One Piece, who I just love the guy. He's like anything in Impel Down up until Marineford. I'm just like, I love this guy. He's so good, and I just wish he was in more. He's just the best. His send-off is so good. My only gripe is that we don't get to see him more. For 81, we have Amuro Ray from the Gundam series, which is every incarnation of him that I have seen, which I cannot list off the top of my head, but it is all the beginning movies and then a couple of the sequel ones. I just think he's like an interesting guy where it's like at the beginning he's just a kid who's like good at piloting the robot, but then like he also was fighting a war, and that changes him and affects him, and I think that's really cool. Number 80, we have Zoro from One Piece, who, he's just cool. He's a sword guy. He's cool. I think he has some interesting developments throughout the course of the story. And that's really it. Like, I don't have a lot to say on a lot of the One Piece ones. I just like their design, their gimmick, and they've had a few moments where I'm like, sick. I do like you. For number 79, we have Kozume Kenma from Haikyuu, the first of many Haikyuu characters. And he's only really this low because he's the one I've spent the least time with. And I think when I reread it, he'll probably go up. But he just has a good energy, and I think his arc in the Karsuno versus Nekoma match is great. But I just wish he was involved in a more meaningful way earlier, besides like being Hinata's rival. And I think it works, and the payoff is great. I just want more of him, and I didn't get enough, I guess. That's why I'm not as big of a fan. But I think a reread will probably bump him up a lot. Number 78, we have Nobuchika Ginoza from Psycho Pass. I think his arc in the first season is just great, where he is trying so hard to be this like pillar of justice and stick on the straight and narrow, and just is constantly being like punched by the universe, and it's like, no, you're gonna break. And it's interesting to watch him just kind of break and then eventually just accept that that is how it's gonna be. Number 77, we have Tamako from Tamako Love Story, and by extension Tamako Market. I think her arc in the movie is great, where she just kind of has to learn how to be a young kiddo in love. And it's very wholesome and warm, and I always think about the line that like Naoki Hamada said, where she's like standing at the entrance to the universe. Like, that is one of the few interview lines from like anything that I still remember like to this day, and I think that's such a great phrase for Tamako's arc in the movie, and also just like life in general. Number 76, we have Romani from FGO. He's just such a fun vibe for the time he's in, and then his usage in the later arcs of the first arc of the story arc being like the first singularities up through Solomon. I think it's just great. He's so fun to exist around, and then when he's actually involved in the plot and the narrative, you're like, yes, he's back. And if recent developments are hinting of more of him, I don't know. I don't read or know Japanese, so I don't know how he's going to come back, but if he does, I am all for it. Number 75, we have Shine Nozen from 86, who I think just has a really great character arc over the course of the first 2 seasons, where he does kind of stop trying to die in every fight and instead just taking life a little slower and a little less like, I am bearer of all of their sins. I will fight the battles they need to be fought. And I appreciate him for not doing that, because I like him and I want to see more of him. And I also watched the insert song at the end of season 2 and I cried a little bit. That's also partially why I like him a lot, but he's just an enjoyable character to watch exist. That is all for the first batch of this ranking. I'm going to split them up once every week of the month so that I can make it last the whole month instead of sitting here for an hour reading off reasonings for characters. So we'll break it 75, then 74 to 50, then 50 to 20, or 49 to 25, and then 24 to 1. So stick around for that. That'll be out through the course of the month. I'm excited to do it, and I can guarantee you if I do this again next year, so much of this is going to change. But this is where we stand for now.